Hi, everybody. My name is Kevin Scarf. I am the creative director at Flameborn Games, and we are um, very excited about working with all of you with all of you, and working with DreamPod 9 and me and everything like that. And this is our first Q&A. And like many things, indie and video game stuff, although we are very, very excited about everything moving forward, we're also really excited to just kind of take these first steps. So I'm today to kind of outline a few things, talk a little bit about why we, got in touch with DreamPod 9 and what our vision for what we're trying to do is and everything, and kind of give you guys a little bit of some context on some of the things. Before I go in, we were blown away at the response. We wanted to do something special because the 30th anniversary of Heavy Gear, well, the anniversary of Heavy Gear was the 30th of July. And we realized something special with DreamPod 9 for that, even though we're very early in the process. So that was something where the team really had talked to DreamPod 9. DreamPod 9 was very excited, and we just felt really strongly like, well, yeah, we've already done a few assets, doing tests and all these other things. We think we can put something together to really show where we're going. We had been working with the incredibly and super talented Pixel Audio for a number of years prior to all of this through a variety of other companies. And we wanted them to do music for us for this game. And we were already exploring some of the early stuff, so they were absolutely game for doing a music track with us. And that was definitely where we wanted to capture the theme and the sound of the Badlands. That was a major thing. I'm just going to send a quick message to Mage Leader right now. 1 second, because I don't want to miss him. So Pixel Audio had put together the music, and we were very, very excited. And we had moved forward on this, and the teaser was supposed to just be an announcement that we were working on the game. It's not a gameplay trailer, obviously. It's not an announcement trailer or anything like that. It really was just a celebration of 30th anniversary to kind of establish the tone and overall feel of what we're aiming to do, but also just to be like, hey, guess what? Heavy Gear is back. And we didn't really have too hard objectives or anything on that. We were just excited. So the response was overwhelming. Absolutely touched by how excited everyone was in the responses. We had huge grins on our faces from so many great articles and coverage from other people. I was shocked that X had responses. I was told by many that X is dead. X is very much alive in Japan because there's quite a lot of views there and reactions. But it was fantastic just to see such an upswell and just a massive kind of rise of support and excitement from so many corners of the internet. People just really excited about the idea of doing like a mech kind of game and getting excited about RPGs and getting excited about Heavy Gear. What really surprised me personally was, although I have very fond memories of Heavy Gear 1 and 2 myself, was shocked at how many people came back with stories, especially in our YouTube comment section, about late nights playing with older brothers, playing with friends, LAN parties at the office and stuff. And that was touching. That was really touching to see that so many people had so much positive memories and we're really excited and really we're kind of going like, yes, this is fantastic. So on that, we're going to take a look. It is possible that I might be deafened, so it is possible. We'll take a look at all that. Okay, so I'm going to get into a few things. I'm going to answer some stuff outside of the questions, and then I'm going to go through the ask a question section, and I'm going to explain how ask a questions is going to work moving forward. So on there. So right off the bat, I'm going to kind of go over a few small things. One of the questions we saw across the board on the internet was about Unreal 5. There were concerns, there were things up, there was concerns about all sorts of things, and is this a good engine, a bad engine, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be careful because the programmers are in the chat, and if I say the wrong thing, they might kill me. Our programmers are bloodthirsty. Which are grateful. But what I'm going to basically explain is the following. There are some very specific reasons we've chosen Unreal 5, and there's multiple departments that came into that. The number one reason that we're working with Unreal 5 is that most, if not all, of the developers at our studio are familiar and have worked with Unreal for many, many years in their careers. They obviously didn't just start at Playing Born Games. They've worked in other studios, they've worked on other projects, but almost everybody on our studio who has to work in has been an Unreal 5 developer. That means that that's where our like most of our experience is, and we're very comfortable with that. I think that's important to understand because although we do like and look at other engines, reserve the right as a studio to choose the best engine for the project. And there's lots of factors that go into it. We wanted to make sure that we had the best engine for heavy gear, and there's a lot of other factors that went into it. So right off the bat, we feel that Epic has been really because they know it's an issue, and it's been a big issue for Unreal 5. So we've been seeing a lot of improvements there, and that makes us really, really excited to work with Unreal 5. Another thing is that we really make that a main priority for optimization is something that we're very passionate about. And when we formed the studio, many of us had conversations about having, worked on projects where that was kind of treated as like an afterthought or we'll fix it in post. And that's really not our opinion. When you get a game, you should polish to as good as it can be at release, in our opinion. At the same time, you need to know that we're in it for the long haul. If there are problems at release, we will be there to keep fixing. So that's kind of our mentality about that. And I just want to kind of reassure everybody that we can on optimization, and that is first and foremost in our minds. Like we will cut features that would block optimization and smoothness because it's just not worth it if it's going to cause like terrible screen stuttering or problems. The second thing, there was some conversations and questions that were about Unreal 6. I'm going to be quite clear. It is way too early to commit to some sort of Unreal 6 thing. I will say that for us, it really would be a case by case. We have to really be convinced. Right now, we're cold in Unreal 5, and we're going to be sticking with that. Unless there was something that was like really, really great incentive in terms of delivery and quality improvement or something like that for the fans. There's just no. I'm hoping I'm not sounding too muffled. Am I sounding okay? Is this better? I'm just trying to readjust my mic because I'm hearing Dakota is writing that I'm sounding muffled right now. I was talking about, okay, sounds good. Perfect. Okay. Moving on from that, the other thing too is from the art side, there's a lot of really good positives as well. We chose Unreal 5 as well because we're trying to do, I would say, a pretty realistic art style that brings the battle never before and makes you guys feel like you're inside of it. Unreal 5 is frankly the best option. It offers the highest fidelity for graphics. The Lumen offers realistic lighting features when light bounces off of objects like accurate material types. Nanite offers freedom for artists as there removes any polygon restrictions, and you skip the tedious steps of retropology. I can never say that right, but you know what I'm talking about. From high poly to low poly, the blueprint system allows devs that artists to solve the code, which is critical for smaller teams because that means people can actually partake and help and kind of accelerate production. And it's just easy and intuitive with so many modes, and there's so much support online in terms of just pure amounts of any sort of references, help tools, communities, and all things like that. And yeah, let's not forget animations. That's the biggest one. The animation stuff is insane for rigging to skinning to animation. It's all in-engine handled really well. And if you're doing a game like Heavy Gear, animations are important. You really want to bring these gears to life, and you want to bring Grells to life, and you want to bring the wildlife of Terra Nova to life, and you want to bring all of the fun of zooming and booming life and all of the terrible stuff as well. Dakota, if you can't hear me, you might be able to click on me and increase my audio volume to like 200%. But unfortunately, it might be an issue on your end. It seems like everybody else is saying, giving you a heads up on that. Have you turned it off and on again? Sorry, I'm not. It's always frustrating between the sure. On top of all of that, we're going to move on to the other stuff too. Heavy gear. This was a question that was sent to me from quite a few people, and I was quite happy about that. And we chose heavy gear for a few reasons. So first off, we're Canadian. Surprise! And heavy gear is. I know this is shocking. We're very excited to be working with a Canadian IP, and we were talking about like what would be our first kind of big game in terms of like scale and what we'd want to try to achieve. And a few of us who had fond memories of our childhoods of playing heavy gear tabletop and things like that, we're kind of talking like, whatever happened to that? And then we were looking at it, and then we got into a wonderful discussion with special thanks to Prof, who's a major moderator on many of the discords, and he got us in touch with the right people. And from there, we were able to talk to Robert, and an absolutely wonderful person, and the champion of DreamPod 9. And then we were able to reach out. We were just excited as a new Canadian game studio to be working on a Canadian IP, and we really felt strongly about that. The other thing is, and that's actually what Cobra just said, actually, so I'm going to point to that. Heavy gear is very unique. I always had a bit of, my back would always go up when I heard MechWarrior community call us Canadian Battletech, and I was like, that is not true. We are a very, very different setting than game. And I felt strongly about the fact that Heavy Gear had so much more going for it in terms of 30 years of lore, but also world building. And I just got really, really excited about that, because when you're working on a game with one studio and things like that, creating new IP is incredibly hard. And sometimes that can lead to all sorts of conversations and back and forths, and that can really slow down production and development, of course. When you're working with someone else's product and IP and worlds, you can get excited and get really excited and get motivated and move faster. That's always a plus, of course. But Heavy Gear has 30 years of lore, and it's amazing lore, and it's in-depth lore, and it's got great writing and great art style and lots of fun. And because of that, you can really dig into it, bring some of your own spins, and we'll get into that in the future with you guys. What's really our objective is to bring Heavy Gear to life like never before seen. And that makes us very, very excited. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but we're going to get into that all that chat. Now, one of the cool things right now is that there was a question, and I'm going to go to the ask a questions now for a little bit. So I'm going to do my best to jump back and forth between the chat window here, but the idea here was that I would read some of the questions that are in our ask a question form and move my way down. If you are ever wondering if your question was answered, you will see a check mark that says answered. We added a tag to it, and then usually you'll see a response for us. Sometimes the response will be in-depth and very direct. Sometimes will be me just sending an emoji response because I'm a bit of a troll at heart. I do apologize. And sometimes the response is going to be, we'll have to answer that in the future. We can't say anything about that right now for a variety of reasons. It's classified. We can't know what we're doing. As for the speaker options right now, there will be no one speaking but us at the point with these stages. So there won't be any direct conversations. In the future, I will be doing town hall stuff, and we will that. And I'm going to probably try to make our town halls more on the weekend when people are more available. But if we do a town hall in the future, there's going to be a chance for you guys to actually directly ask questions as if you were walking up and grabbing the mic directly. So I will kind of come back to the chat messages. I'm going to go through a few of the ask questions, if that's okay. So let's get started. Are we all ready to get started? You guys ready to have some answers given to you and questions given to you and all that jazz? Want to see some excitement? Let's go. Let's go. Oh, okay. Craving the knowledge. Okay, so I'm going to work my way up. I'm going to get through some pretty quick things here. So let me just go take a look. I'm going to scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. So all of the answered ones, I'm going to just not going to retread too much on those because you guys can read those. Just a few interesting questions. So as an example, how many types of vehicles are available? I'm going to be clear, we haven't locked down the list yet on vehicles. So at this time, we can't confirm what's in or out. What I can tell you is our goal is to in where you, the player, can drive around like a maniac, drive, shoot, die, scream, jump off of ravines, fall into McLaren cave network openings, things like that. It has a lot of the idea is that we want to bring vehicles a little bit more of a focus. We love the idea of high-speed combat, and we absolutely love the idea and adore the idea of vehicles being put in. Now, at the moment, we're trying to find the right balance between that mech combat and out of so foot combat, and we do reserve the right to address that in terms of game balance. But as of right now, I can say that we can confirm that it's going to be land-based vehicles, gears, and out of mech. That's as far there is nothing about flight. I've been asked that a few times, like, can you fly helicopters and stuff? And I'm feeling safe to say that we're not going to have any sort of like aerial stuff going on that's too complex. Going from their supported languages, I can't confirm local right now because that's usually done when you have a publishing partner. But at the moment, I will say that we're going to 100% push for major languages. Absolutely, the person who had asked this was Arcblade, and we'll definitely want to be pushing for Japanese localization. Expect to see some form of localization. We just don't have a confirmed list at this point. Modding support, I can't confirm modding right now. That is not because we're not fans of modding. We are fans of modding at our studio, but I can't confirm that because look at the scope of that, and we want to make sure we have the best implementations. So the main thing there is just to remember that I cannot confirm or deny that there will be modding. I do not know how extensive or unextensive it is, so because we haven't started looking at that. So that tuned for. Multiplayer co-op. Okay, so I want to say something really here. There are open discussions at the studio right now about multiplayer and co-op. We will not confirm or deny that. And our primary goal, what we are mandated and what we want to do, is a great single player experience, period. So we are looking at some multiplayer options. We are looking at some co-op options. Do not want anyone to get super like built up or have false information out there, because one, we were very clear we are not an esports multiplayer first microtransaction crypto blockchain web3 Elias gas vehicle or any of those other buzzwords. We aren't any of those things. We will always put the single player experience. Yeah, we're not doing gotcha NFT pachinko. No, Mark, Trey Barron, we are not going to. Maybe we'll do gearbox, but no, we're not going to do gearbox. I'm joking, but I really want to make sure. If you're wondering why I'm laughing, it's because our studio head, Trade Baron, has just said we can charge for bullets. That's between me and him, because when I was in the industry, when I first started out, there was an executive I worked with at another publisher way back when, where an executive was like, we should start charging for bullets. And I just remember how my blood ran cold as a gamer. So no, we won't do that. Ironically, not. He was once he said that, but it was a different publisher at the time. It got killed pretty fast internally. Just responding to the chat window there. But to answer that question, we are looking at what we can do there, and I look forward to when we can give you guys a more firm answer on those things. Main goal is to give you guys the best single player experience, period. So that's our main focus. So we'll see what it is, but don't expect us only hear about this turning into an MMO, a live service thing. That's happening. Okay, so big question, and there's a few questions that are kind of like this, where they ask, is this a mech simulation or action game? My direct response to that is yes. That might not be the answer that some people are seeking. I'm literally just saying yes. And I'm going to get into that a little bit. Our internal conversations about what we want to do with heavy gear is the fact that, in our opinion, heavy gear is all about skill, speed, and zoom and boom. And we feel very strong about that. So what that means is that although we want to give you guys the best mech gear kind of experience in heavy gear universe and really bring it into a level of immersion that only Unreal 5, in our opinion, can do, at the same time, we want to make sure that it's super fast speed and that you guys feel like you are the skilled pilots and duelists that you all have in your gear hearts. So it's really important to us that it is not a turn-based, which is one of the reasons why we said act, and that is not slow. We want this to be fast-paced combat, and we want this to be really fun. At the same time, in terms of simulation, we do want to capture as much simulation and much of the core things from things like other mech games, of course. But we will prioritize fun and zoom and boom over pure simulation, because we don't want players to get too bogged down and having to worry if, as an example, and I'll just use this as an example, are the treads on my gear and how much more wear and tear can they take over the next 24-hour cycle of day and night. We want to make sure that there's a good balance there so that it's not too micromanagey. But at the same time, we don't want it to feel like I'm playing Diablo in an isometric click, shoot. So I really want to make sure that people understand that we are going to find a fantastic balance there. And Red, don't you dare. I was using that as a joke. I'm not talking about day-night cycles right now. If you want to post that and ask a question, go ahead. Joking, there's a little bit of sarcasm from me and all that jazz, so don't worry too much. Moving up from there, I'm going to keep trying to go through this as fast as I can because obviously we have some time here. Role play outside gears, capturing, salvaging gears. So this is a question asked by Scott. Get into this. So we do need to get a little bit more into the scope of this stuff. Here's what I will say. We absolutely will be having role play outside of the gears. That is a given. When Terra Nova life like never before, one of the main reasons that we want to have combat outside of the gears, but also being able to walk around. Anyone who knows the lore knows that some cities will not let you go into the city with gear. You have to park it at a gear garage. You have to have it registered. You go around in Peace River in your gear with your fully armed missile pod rack and flamethrower on your shoulder in that grizzly that you took off in the desert. So sometimes you have to register it for law and order. And maybe not. But the main thing here is that we do want to make sure that it is an immersive RPG experience when you're outside of the gear, and we do want you to actually be able to walk around, talk, interact with people, and all sorts of stuff. So that's one of with Heavier 3 is that we want to give you guys that kind of experience outside of the gear and really make it really fun. At the same time, just kind of circle back to that specific question, capturing and salvaging gears. That is something that we're looking at. And we definitely do feel like there's going to be some elements of that. We're just trying to make sure that it doesn't get so bogged down that it overcomplicates the system. And what I mean by that is that there is, there's a lot of work to be say like, oh, do you take every single part? I'm not talking ill, just to be clear about Heavy Gear Assault. But one thing that we noted when we were looking at Heavy Gear Assault was that their drive to have each single piece of armor on top of the gear so that you can match caused a lot of technical issues, and then also caused issues where gear sizes were really standardized. So you notice that Grizzlies and Kodiaks were not nearly as big as they're supposed to be lore-wise. So that's something that we're looking at, and we're going to try to find some. So we really want to make sure that like a small, medium, and large gear and a Strider, as examples, have those proper sizes. We want to stick to that stuff. So I got to make sure that people understand that. Okay, so moving on from there, I'm going to keep. But I'm going to get into questions pretty soon. I'm going to skip a few questions here, not because they're not, but because we're kind of retraining some things. What version of the war are you guys going to add? The one with a visor or without? That was asked by Sierra X105. The answer is yes. Moving, it's happening both. Too ambitious. This is from Jack Dandy. So this is a fair question. We've had some people say like, "Hey, you're like a new team. You don't have a lot of history. What's going on here?" Ambition, blah, and that's totally fine. It's fine. I'm a gamer as well. We all understand that there is a healthy level of cynicism and skepticism when these comes. So there's two things I want to be sure here to just be clear with everyone about. One, we are still scoping out, and we are still in the prototype phase of this game. So we reserve the right to lower the scope if that improves the overall gameplay experience for you, the player. Your fun takes precedence over everything else. The scope that we've announced, we think is doable within the Heavy Gear universe, but also within Engine. There have been some people in the community who have been saying things that are way outside of the scope because we haven't confirmed things. So as an example, I saw someone say, I can't wait to play across all of Terra Nova. Bethesda couldn't handle making all of Terra Nova. So the entire globe, we are very specifically tackling the Badlands, and although we might have some abilities to go to different areas of the globe at different times, the Badlands is our major focus. So one second. Yes, I did die. My headset that was plugged it back in. I apologize. Hopefully I'm back. Scope creep killed me. You are correct, Jason. No, so I'm back. Hopefully you can all hear me now. Can you all hear me? Just give me a thumbs up. Tell me that I'm live again. Just want to make sure. He Lives, good, okay. The thing is that we're gonna keep the scope specifically to a specific area of Terra Nova, and it's gonna be a few other parts of Terra Nova, so I wanna make sure that everyone's aware of that. So there is that. But it was a fair question to ask Jack Dandy, who had asked that question. And it's a question as well, so totally thumbs up to that one. Okay, so moving from there, just going here, data size. Okay, I can't confirm our data size at this point. I will say that that's a big part of optimization and stuff. I could throw numbers out, but I'm not gonna just. I don't work for other larger publishers. So we'll just say numbers to make you feel better. So, Commander of Heroes, when we have an official data size to announce, we'll let you know. I will say that we would like to keep in mind people's rigs and machines and things like that to make sure it's like the most optimal and everything like that. So that's the only thing there. Ashonia, are you guys going to share anything cool soon? Yes, we're doing a Q&A today. There's going to be more art being shown and all sorts of things. We're going to be at a pretty regular intervals. We want to keep intervals. We want to keep you guys kind of in the loop in terms of development and things like that. We're aiming for a more transparent and kind of like roadmap style thing where you guys will be talking to us and we'll be talking to you. But this will be a journey. This will be a longer journey. So will I have gameplay next week? No, I'm sorry. We're not at that stage, but we will keep talking and doing things. And there will also be some coordination with DreamPod 9 and others in terms of like updating lore, in terms of like just bringing things that are already in the lore, but then communicating people as they come in, because we have lots of newcomers too who are getting excited. So I want to be sure that people can see that as well. Going from there, because that was a Twitter conversation, let's get going. Hopefully I'm not talking too fast. Apologize. I've had a lot of caffeine to stay awake. Style tanks versus modern first-person shooters. That's a great question from Small Mecha Man, and he's kind of saying like where are you guys falling? Are you guys falling like Titanfall 2 and Armored Core 6? Are you guys kind of going more towards kind of more like a real like meaty thing? I need to be careful about this. So the thing I need to be careful about is I think the programming team is looking at me like with narrowed eyes. All I can say at this time is the same answer I gave. We look going more in depth on the controls, both in and out of gears in the future. I think the main thing to understand is that our balance and what we need to try to balance is this gear, the kind of everything. I want you to feel like a pilot, of course, but at the same time, there's a huge difference between playing on a mouse and keyboard and a controller. And these days, many people will play their PC games with a controller on their computer, and then many people will have different kinds of interactions and different controls to the two big consoles. So we're going to be taking a look at what we can and can't do, and then what's like the best kind of result for the most amount of people. So that's the thing that we're going to do there. At the same time, we don't want to leave people behind. We really want to still make sure that there's all that love from the past. And you really do, when you're a skilled duelist, you really can fist pump in the air about how awesome that kill was. So that's that. Going from there, there was a question about some artists, and I've had quite a few questions from artists. I can't confirm who we're working with. We already have a few artists at our store, very talented concept artist who's been doing work with us on the end cards and our wallpapers and key art. But at the time when we start expanding, we are looking and talking to get in contact with some people who have been former artists with DreamPod 9 and Heavy Gear and things like that. And anything that's been like official or like progressed or anything like that. But we'll keep you updated as we look at people. I am also a fan of Eldon Calgar. This is for Paladin. Paladin, I'm probably saying that wrong. Question. He's fantastic. We did look at some of his work, of course. He's a big part of, I think, specifically Heavy Gear 4E. But he did a few other things, I think, for Blitz as well. I'm not 100% sure. But we will take a look at all that stuff. Northern Guard, what type of open world does the team it can be many things. He's talking about Mountain Blade and Kenshi, or is it more like Fallout, Witcher 3, or even Assassin's Creed? Okay, I want to be clear here because there was a conversation that erupted about this. So this is kind of an interesting thing. So Mountain Blade and Kenshi have kind of like where you have an icon that's moving around, and then you go into kind of encounters. If I remember correctly, Kenshi, I know the Mountain Blade is like that because I play that like crazy myself. I've always loved the Mountain Blade series. The main thing, we are not doing a Mountain Blade game. So the Mountain Blade style of open world, that works really well with the kind of game that Mountain Blade is, but we're not doing that kind of game. So we are probably closer to things like I would use references. I would say like The Witcher, Fallout. Those are kind of the worlds and experiences of VR. But we are looking kind of more for hub-based kind of environments, but really big, kind of like a really big main hub, which we call the Badlands, and then kind of more focused hubs that are smaller scope looked at. But I really do want to be clear that we want you, the main character, as well as those people around you, to be the most important things. You're not leading an army. You're not taking like a mercenary company of 100 row the Badlands and waging. That's not the goal of this game. So that's a big thing there, just to keep that in mind. And that's the main reason why we're not doing something like Mountain Blade. If we were, that would be a whole different conversation. But it was a great question. Moving from there and moving our way up. I keep going here. Yes, my favorite question, Steam page timing. Okay, I'm going to be quite clear. We will not have a Steam page until we have gameplay. It's really that simple. We were happy to do something for the 30th anniversary of Heavy Year to get started, to allow people to connect to us at an early stage so that we can talk to you. You can everyone can get excited together. We can get community input and really kind of like, all lift together, so to speak. But we're not going to put out a Steam page before we have actual gameplay, because that's not fair to gamers. That's not fair to players. I don't want you guys based on what some people call bullshots in the industry, which is making up gameplay. And we're never going to do that. When you see the stuff from us, that is going to be the gameplay. So that's really important to us, that we're going to be going that direction. And that's a really big thing. Steam demo and Steam Early Access, that's a question. I just saw that in the chat there from Scott. It's an open question. Definitely will be on the team. I would say, it's a possibility. I'm not going to say yes or no to that, but it's a ways away. It's quite far away. So something that is not going to be confirmed for quite some time. Going from continuing a little bit more, just so everyone knows what's going on. What is the next step and when you present a roadmap? That is from Jock. So we'll be presenting a roadmap, I would imagine, in the next, I'd say a month or two, to present kind of a light initial roadmap. And then the roadmap is going to start getting more and more firm as things start rolling, as production becomes more and more live and we onboard people and everything goes going forward. But at the moment, we'll be doing these Q&As and thing, and then we'll be doing regular drops and check-ins with the community and all sorts of stuff, and then we'll go from there. In terms of next steps, right now, it's about us closing pre-production, which will take some time, I would imagine, for most of 2026. And then doing a lot of testing. There's a lot of stuff that we want to test to get the best. We're going to squeeze Unreal 5 for the best results out of it. And I, for one, am very excited about seeing what we can do with Sandstorms, specifically in that engine. So we are going to be long at all that stuff. As for customization, I'm just going back by one. Jack Dandy was asking this question. There will be customization. I can't get too much into what we're doing because that, once again, prototyping, you really want to get into that. But Heavy Gear customization, Heavy Gear 1 and 2 had decent amounts of customization. We really want to bring customization into the game. It's really important to us, but at the same time, we have to make sure that it's scaled properly. You don't want to just do it for the sake of doing it. That's always a mistake. So aware of that. On top of all of that, perspective. Will the game be playable from third-person perspective or locked in first person? Please say there's a viable third-person option. Okay, I cannot confirm at this time or third person. There's a few reasons for that. That is going to be tested. That's going to be extensively tested. Now, I will talk as myself as a player. So I'm saying that Flameboard Games' official stance is we haven't locked in, so we can't. My personal opinion is that I'm always a fan of both options in games. I'm usually a very big fan of being able to switch between those, but there's a lot of extra cost and a lot of extra things that happen for that. So I'm a big fan of it because I feel like that'd be the best balance, but where we have to take a look at all that, and it's really important. So just kind of putting that out there, that it's an ongoing discussion. Nothing's locked, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to say yes and say yes to having both options. You, the players, get to choose what you prefer. If not, we'll give you our reasons why we made the choices, obviously, and it's going to be because we prioritized, most likely because of scope and also for player fun and engagement and game design and all that jazz. Going from there, character origin. Origin from Zero Sum. Okay. Oh yeah. Is there use of generative AI in Heavy Gear? I missed that one. No. Fuck no. And I reserve the right to swear whenever I hear the word generative AI as a game developer. So no. Character origin. Can we expect to play as an existing character, a completely player created one, or a combination of both methods? Existing character, player chosen background, yada yada. Okay, I can neither confirm nor deny at this stage what kind of character you are playing. What I will say is this: you will be playing a character. The character will have a story, and the story is going to be a big part. You will also have, we're working at it, but you'll have some freedom with that character, so to speak. What I will say is your character is not is not locked in as a polar character. So you're not going to be at the start of this game automatically aligned to the north or the south. You have a little bit of freedom as it stands right now. That could be, but the only thing I can say there is there's some interesting things that are in character, and we're in some deep conversations about that on the team, and I'm looking forward to really exploring that more and getting that like locked down. Going from there, survival aspects. Oh wait, no, hang on. I skipped a few things. Keeps going back up. I gotta go down. Hang on. Character origin. Okay, and then we had application of the lore. Okay, so we're going to be taking a look at that. I can't confirm that. I think it's the idea that the gears have the intelligence of dogs. There are some conversations going on. I do believe that because of certain things, we're looking at different options there. So I can't confirm how far we're going to go into that, but that's something where our goal is to bring heavy gear to life, obviously living as possible. So we're going to take a look at what we can do there. There is a wonderful question from CMDR Hatchling. Will there be water units? Okay. Can't confirm. We're the focus is on the Badlands, and although we have the McLaren Cave Network and the underwater water system and everything like that, I can neither confirm nor deny that they're going to be water units. What I will say is, I'm just saying this from the gut. This isn't something that's confirmed. I'm going to say likely water units would be like for very specific encounters or environments. So I'm not sure that you're going to be able to have a water unit from start to finish in this game. Hacking, stealth, and electronic warfare. That's the next one I have here. Let me just double check here. I can't confirm or deny that. I will say once again, it's in the 4th edition. It's part of the tabletop stuff. We are going to be looking at that and reviewing that. So expect that there's going to be hacking, stealth, and electronic warfare. At what scale or how it's going to work, Seb, at this chance, and that's the person who's doing that question. But we'll have to get more into that in the future. So that's something where it's definitely on our minds. Arena and duelists. Probably an obvious question, but will the duelist be tough? The answer is yes. That's all I'm going to say. Going from there, segmental health. So this is from Small Mecha Man. I don't know why I did that with an accent. Case-specific limbs, can you do X and Y? He's talking about features from Heavy Gear 1 and 2, where you could do different things. And Heavy Gear 2 went for more of a standard health and armor bar and had like damage debuffs, like no torso rotation, things like that. How you really early stages, I will say that it is on the list for us to explore. It's a tough one because it does add layers of complexity, which can sometimes create problems. But personally, we really do want to bring this to life like never before. So I'm going to say that we're gonna get back to you guys on that one. But it's a great question and definitely something to keep on your minds. And I look forward to showing you guys what our final implementation will be with that. Next question: artillery weapon implementation from Red. Wrong. Red Rick Dias, another HR violation almost happened there, was wondering how will gear scale artillery such as mortars and rockets be handled? Are they available? Can they be long range, indirect attacks? What kind of visual feedback will the players get? Some references. MechWarrior line simply flashes the target's armor dual in your HUD when you fire long range missiles as artillery. Very detached and interesting. With that should be a bigger part of how gears can fight than most mecha. I would love to know more. You will have to wait on more about that. That is definitely on the list. We are looking at medium range and short range combat is going. I'll also roll into that we are looking at melee because melee is also a big part of heavy gear. The fact that a heavy gear, a gear can pick up weapons and all sorts of stuff is always exciting. So we want to really bring this in interesting ways. What I will say is the Unreal 5 engine handles explosions quite nicely. So we are looking to kind of make that a much more impactful thing, especially in this game. Crew harm. This is from Rygen. I hope there be damage to crew and pilots, including yourself, if you get shot up. Um, yes, I like you can die. So if you can die, there has to be damage. So I'm not 100% sure how the question is. I will say that in terms of your character, there's definitely damage. We are talking, and I'll get into that because there's some stuff there. Because above there's squad management, so I'll get into that. But I would imagine that the answer is yes. I don't think we're like your companion is a more kind of situation. Customization. Will we be able to recolor our gears and squad mates' gears in the campaign? I can't confirm nor deny that because that's not implemented yet. But once again, heavy gear to life. And one of the biggest parts about heavy gear that makes me always happy is how many people in the community paint and come up with different color systems, do decals and stickers and all sorts of stuff. So we're going to go extensive in that. I look forward to when we can kind of get more into kind of recoloring and how that happens. So don't have an official answer, but I will say that the team at Flameborn is excited to get into that answer in the future. Squad management, giving orders, setting behaviors, setting individual waypoints, loadouts, etc. I'm thinking in terms of Sims of the 90s. I was a big fighter player and would love to see tactical, strategic, and logistical gameplay loops from Bookman. Would also translate well into any potential co-op if that happens. Okay, this is something I'm going to get into right here. So I'm sorry, Bookman, I might be disappointing you. Big one here is I think when we're talking about tactical and strategic, there's definitely things that we're looking at. I can't confirm too many things. So a lot of those things that you're saying up there, like giving orders, setting behaviors, individual waypoints, loadouts, those are all things that we can't confirm, but we're looking at. We definitely do want to have companions, and that's something we've been talking about in heavily at Flameborn Games. But we do need to do more prototyping to make sure that works. When we talk about logistics is something that's way more stuff, and I want to be quite clear about that. That's probably not going to be a big part of this game because our story is going to be focused on you as a player, and that is very, very important that we kind of keep it scaled down. So I don't think logistics is going to be as big of a factor in this game. And by logistics, I mean like having ammo dumps and things like that. So that's how I'm reading that question, just to be clear. So it's kind of like I don't think we're tracking resource usage. So fuel, water, heat, that kind of stuff. I could see us doing some of those systems. I could definitely see us putting some of those systems behind gameplay difficulty levels because I've always been a huge fan. Fallout New Vegas, I love the hard mode. That's like one of my favorite. Like, yes, hurt me. So I could absolutely see us maybe looking at something like that. But it's really important that we don't get too far ahead of what we're doing right now because we. So I hope that answered your question there, Bookmaster. I hope I didn't say the wrong things, but I will always speak the truth no matter what it is. Evolution of gameplay. Real mech is love. Dare soul steel R. Okay, I got that wrong. Will you be evolving the basic gameplay of the Heavy Gear games? The original Heavy Gear game was more of a copy of MechWarrior using simulator controls. Okay, I'm not going to get too much into this. Just very specific questions about all that stuff, but I'm going to have a more broader answer to you right now. We ain't MechWarrior. We are Heavy Gear. Our number one goal is that this game, when you play it, it's Heavy Gear, and that's the big answer. You might get some similarities, but really, at the end of the day, it is about bringing gears to life and making you really understand the differences. MechWarrior has lots of great things. Like don't get me wrong, I absolutely do enjoy that. I'm in a gigantic robot. I walk through a building. I kick that tank. All that kind of stuff. It's great, and screaming as elementals swarm is the worst experience. And I don't know if the person who did that to me on tabletop is here, but yeah, no, it's the worst experience. But the thing is, when it comes to Heavy Gear is always the focus has always been gears, but than just gears. So we really want to make people understand that Heavy Gear is its own thing and has its own identity. This is not just a reskinned MechWarrior game. So that's my answer to that question. In terms of controls and things like that, Yeah, you could to be looking at our controls because we do have to take into account controller support and things like that because he does mention that here. Because he kind of, I think he's more saying about the difference between mech simulator and first-person shooters. But I personally feel like the thing we have to think about it more as is it's a difference board and more complex custom controllers versus handheld controllers. And that's something that's always a hard thing to find balance in, but that's our goal. So we're going to work our butts off at finding a great balance between those two things. All right. Going to answer your question, real mech is love there. And if he's not here, I'll be trying to answer those later today. I'll be going back in and doing a little bit of an answer there. Platforms. I cannot confirm our platforms. I will say that it's guaranteed that will be Steam. Something major changes at Steam at this point. But I would say Windows, Steam, those are the two things I can say are confirmed. Everything else is an open question because we're still in early days and all that stuff. So, Mad Dog, a great question, but at this point, we don't have any announcements about if we are with Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo, if we're on Mac or anything like that. So, or Linux and things like that. But we'll be taking a look at all those things, obviously. Okay, let's see. We're gonna keep going here. There's some fun questions coming up, I can tell. Let me just take a look here. There we go. Inspirations. How the mech moves and feels plays a huge role in the game ultimate experience. I'm curious about how the game will play from a physics animation standpoint. What other titles you're looking for inspirations? Do you guys play Heavy Gear Assault at all before stuff and things happen? So that's Nakor saying that. Um, I played Heavy Gear Assault actually. Before the unfortunate events happened there. Single tear rolling down my cheek. I also played Heavy Gear 2 extensively. Heavy Gear 1, I got a little bit of experience with, but I didn't get to really play it that much. I played quite a few different games. I think the answer to this is that we're fully exploring that. We're very excited. We actually have a dedicated animation and director at our studio who's very, very skilled. And the biggest thing is that we've been talking a lot about how we want movement. I would point to our main piece of key art if you guys have all seen the Badlands Patrol, which is that piece where the gear has its legs kind of crossed and it's leaning. And really for us, Zoom and Boom, which is a big part of Blitz, Heavy Gear Blitz stuff, that's where our inspiration comes from. We feel like Heavy Gear is about speed. A lot of the time, it's about moving fast or staying still to get that perfect hit. It's about being a duelist. It's about being a skilled pilot, so to speak. And at the same time, lot of other things and being like tactical and strategic with your squad and thinking things through and L-shaped flanking ambushes and falling back and knowing when to do and things like that. So I think the main answer to that question, although we look forward to showing you guys stuff, it's definitely not going to be paint by numbers or plotting. We're definitely getting away from slow movement, and that's definitely something I can say there. Going from there, rover gangs. All right, pilot. This is interesting. Always loved rover gangs and other battleline inhabitants as trying to survive, be left alone. How will we interact with such groups and will there be consequences? I wish I could drop a GIF right now in the chat, but my response is, as John Wick says, actions, that is a big part. That's a big pillar of our game. There will absolutely be rover gangs, and there will absolutely be Battleline inhabitants because that is a major focus of the game in the Badlands. I'm not there, but I will say that the answer is yeah. There's going to be interactions with those groups heavily, and on top of that, there will be actions and consequences for those interactions, which will be interesting. Faction choice career. You were asking, will you be able to choose if you were from the north or the south at the start of the game who you're fighting for? So the answer to this, because then you go, or will you automatically be put on one side of the game's conflict? The funny answer to that I answered a little bit earlier was no. We're going to get into it a little bit later, but you're not going to automatically at the start have a pre-created character that is aligned with one or the other. You'll have to wait to see, but I will say that it is all I can say at this point is that it's in game and it's part of the lore, it's part of the story, and that's all I'm allowed to say, or else my narrative director will come and stab me. So I'm going to move from there. In the lore of Heavy Gear, the gears are often designed to be mobile. How modifiable are you hoping to have gears plus vehicles? I said this before. I think when we're looking at gears, loadouts and things like that are going to be very important. I'm not sure about vehicles. I think vehicles is something where we're a little bit more okay with it being a bit more static, but we're going to take a look at that. So I can't really confirm anything hard right now, Nomad Wolf, but it's definitely something that's open. I will say that we do like customization at Flameborn Games, so we're going to keep that door open for sure, and we'll get back to you more as this scope and scale customize the board. Living world aspects from Suddenly Matt. Have you all given thought to how player and NPC faction actions will be affecting the open world? Yes, that's my answer. You'll have to wait to see. Definitely some stuff that we're doing there, and we're definitely working. To build on that a little bit more, we're definitely working within the story that DreamPod 9 has crafted over the last 30 years. So there's a lot of things that we kind of look at as that we have to work either around or alongside. But we're looking forward to doing some stuff between the spaces, so to speak, and then also showing different perspectives on events that you guys, as fans, might know, but didn't know maybe it went down or didn't know how someone was doing something else that then resulted in that action and things like that. So there's some interesting stuff there. From just take a look here from Josh. Do you think that love could bloom on the battlefield? Fantastic. Fantastic Metal Gear reference there if you don't know that one. So we'll look into it. I'll get back to you. Maybe. I don't know. I don't. I'll have to check with HR. We'll take a look. Player character and customization. Will the player character be a blank slate adjacent? Character will be playing character with a set backstory, gender identity, and personality. Will their appearance also be customizable? We're really in early days, Celtic Goth. I've answered this a little bit. I think what I can say at this point is your character is not a blank slate. I can say that with confidence. But your character is very and very interesting things going on for them, and that's going to be a big part of her life. I think I just got messaged by the narrative director. Okay, yeah, I need to get away from this question. She'll black bag me. All right, moving on from there. Jayton, one of our moderators. Oh, our moderator flooded with questions, so fantastic. Going from there, with things like Fallout listed as aspirations, how do you see water management playing into the game? How do you think loot mechanics would work? If you destroyed your vehicle, would you be able to pick up some of the equipment, things like that? Okay, I'm going to get into this really quick but like I said earlier, those are kind of mechanics that we look at. Like I talk about Fallout New Vegas all the time, and I love difficulty modes. We are definitely looking at the fact like Gears being able to pick up guns, pick up ammos, and things like that makes complete sense. One of the things that sets Head from a lot of other stuff, and is very Otama, of course, is that you're able to pick up the weapons on the ground and you can do different things. And that your vehicle is a weapon in and of itself, but it's always fun when you're like, I'm just going to barrel towards this person and kick him, that kind of stuff. So there's some. But I will say that there's going to be more in the future, but we'll take a look at that. But we're going to find the best balance. Map density and fixed versus random locations is interesting. We're very early on that, but I will say that we have some big plans, special plans hub on how that's going to work. The biggest conversation that we've been having is how to utilize Unreal 5 for some very interesting things that haven't been done in other games. So I'm looking forward to getting into that a little bit with weather and some other stuff. And weather is very important here, especially around the Badlands. But I don't want to get too much more into this. But I will say that we aren't doing anything that's procedural. So you're not going to like leave an area, come back, and then there's like a whole new that instead is now in a different layout. So there are going to be a lot of things that are static that are always solid. Those places could change, and those places might have different groups in them or things like that. But we're not going to be doing something where it's like you left here, you come back, and that's not how we're doing it. So you're not going to have like procedural generation maps, like I guess like Dead by Daylight is a good reference for that with how they do stuff. A flight sim. Will this game have realistic aircraft physics? We're definitely moving on physics. It's very hard to fly aircraft in the Badlands. That's why Gears are so popular. So interesting question us, but the person asked us. But specifically, yeah, we're looking at physics as part of stuff. Can't really confirm or deny too much of the scale there, but we're going to get character progression from Jayton again. How do you guys see character progression happening? Do you envision a stat type system where your characters have certain traits? This is very interesting. We're still looking at a lot of this, but what I will say is you bring up two systems. You bring up stats and then skills, and you also bring up was fun. That was a hiccup on my computer. Am I still here? Because my power just flicked at my apartment, and my computer seems fine, but my headset just reset. I'm still here. Good. Yeah, the CEF can't silence us. Black souls. All right, moving on from there. Apologies. To say this is that yes, we're definitely looking at those kind of systems. We're definitely going to be heavily inspired by definitely the RPG systems. The fourth edition is definitely something we're looking at. I don't say or confirm or lock into something specific, but we're going to be taking a look at how we did say an RPG, but how your character does stuff, traits, all those kind of things, but definitely the way that you work or interact with different factions on Terra Nova will affect your sim. That's something I can confirm we are definitely wanting to do. All right, going from that question, I'm going to keep going. There's a few more, so we might be going over time, but I'm going to do my best here. Complex enemy AI from Gnome. Yeah, we're going to do the best that we can. I don't think anything will be T-posing in front of you. So fingers crossed, we're definitely going to be working our butts off on that. But this is with a single player experience and all that stuff, we're going to be looking at the complexity there.
Or else.
I don't think you have to worry too much about that, but we're gonna be working with some pretty robust stuff in Unreal 5 to really get results there. Where are we? You actually now? Is the game still in paper, or is there some assets done and code actually written? This is from Jock. Okay, that's some assets. You actually saw that in our teaser. It's all in engine. And there is some stuff that is being progressed. Currently, I can't talk about it too much. Currently, Flameborn Games is wrapping up its first game, and I can't say anything beyond that because there's NDAs and other things, and a lot of our team is wrapping that up. But what is going on right now is that we're still in pre-production on Terra Nova on Heavy Gear 3. So a lot of the stuff that paper, but also prototyping and getting ready for prototyping and getting more extensive prototyping. So all I can say right now to that, Jock, is we've had some fun progress and there's definitely some stuff going. But are we in development? No, we're not in active development. We are still in pre-production. I saw Just just react to you could have a first game. I'm like, we had a project that we started before we locked everything down with DreamPod 9. Our entire team is ecstatic about this project, but we got it right now. So it was a really weird thing where we're like, wait, our 30th anniversary announcement is going to come out ahead of us announcing the first project. So when we get to actually announce that, we'll have that in our Flameborn Games thing here. It's a really fun thing, and I can't go beyond that. But that's the main, just being, once again, fully transparent about everything. Going from there, art style. Okay, this is really fun. This is from Celtic Goth, GF96. And I think I see a few try to get through a bit more, but I have to have the hard cutoffs. Will the game present a more anime-esque art style than the first two Heavy Gear games to bring it more in line with the art direction of the tabletop games? Celtic. If you look at our end art, if you look at the art that's in the teaser, the in-game assets, we are trying to blend between a more realistic approach while bringing the anime approach into it. We are very excited about this. When you guys come take a look at this in the future, we think it'll be like the perfect blend. But our goal is to really bring Heavy Gear to life. If you look at our end card and the teaser, if you look at some of our other stuff, we're going to be using all of the stuff from Heavy Gear as inspiration, and then we're really bringing it down. If you want to look into our sneak peeks and even our announcement stuff, some of the wonderful art that's been done by Kristen on our team, which are just black and white thumbs, that is where we're going with the art style. We want to really honor the roots of a 30-year-old wonderful, wonderful setting, and at the same time, we don't want to set stuff. So we really want to elevate it, bring it to life, make it look fantastic in Real 5. But it's not going to be a one-for-one copy. But at the same time, we're not going to just be like, yeah, just change it and make it all kind of bland. So the answer to that question is we are the best balance, and we're really keeping in mind the style of Heavy Gear that exists. Going from there, from Hot Claw, some real-time strategy elements, squad management and deployment a la battle zones would be sweet. Not necessarily construction though. Okay, specific things there. So I'll just say we'll take a look at it. I can't confirm or deny if there are battle zones. I will say there's a lot of tension going on in Terra Nova and the time that our game weeks. A lot of angry grells out there and other things. So we're just gonna have to take a look at all that. But we can't get too much into that at this point. But it'll be fun to go into the future. DMV. You mentioned having to register your gear and having it depart in a city. Is there a Department of Motor Vehicles equivalent or something? Am I going to have to wait in a line? Rebel Wick. I'm going to write that down. I think every player in this community can now thank you for giving me that idea. I can finally live my dream as a DMV to life. This is great. Thank you, Rebel Wick. That's my answer. Going from there back to Hot Clock, I literally listen to the Heavy Gear 1 OST on repeat every day to this day. Fantastic. Ji Huang is, I hope I said that right. His music is fantastic. We are working, of course, with the very talented Pixel Audio, and we've been very, very happy with Eric Shaw, who was our composer and did all the musics live and then layered them. It's definitely will be doing more tracks, and we're keeping an eye on honoring and bringing some of the stuff from the US kind of into it. We have to be a little bit careful, of course, because we don't own the rights to Heavy Gear 1 and 2. This is a licensed thing that's still under Activision, so there's some things that we can't just take the soundtrack and also on top of that, we are trying to have a unique identity for Heavy Gear. And the one thing, as I said earlier, that we are absolutely avoiding, and we want to really stress this, we are not Canadian BattleTech. Heavy Gear is Heavy Gear and Nova. So we're working really hard at a really great audio style and everything that you'll get to play every single day. There you go. That's the answer to that. Core gameplay loop. This one gal. What do you see as the core gameplay loop of Heavy Gear 3? I think the core gameplay loop, if I'm looking at it right now as it currently stands, I would say that the core gameplay loop is going out and doing missions and getting paid, so to speak, and then going back, making sure your gear is good, choosing your loadouts and all that stuff, and going out and doing missions. That's, I think, what the core loop is. We'll get more into that in the future, but it really is about into the Badlands and into other hubs and zones and taking care of stuff. Alan Davian. Right here's a question that's actually been burning in the back of my mind recently. Very strong statement at the start there. Since it's been 3 will be set around the Carradine area of the Badlands, possibly even discuss at all going in there and taking part in the professional underground gear dueling circuit there. My man. Absolutely. Absolutely. We really want to do that. I think being a smaller team, the scale and how much of Carradine we can bring to life is always a question. But I will say, how can you have Carradine without having its duelist arena? So I think it's a safe bet that the gear dueling circuit is going to be of that place. All right. Death Track, pretty please. I mean, it exists in lore. Also, the contract that has them. Okay. I will neither confirm nor deny that we endorse the Death Track. I need someone. I'm going to write that down, though. Write that down, please. Someone. Okay, moving from there, rocket pods. We're almost at the top, guys. We're almost through. Will they work in the more realistic way from Heavy Gear 1, where they shoot rockets sequentially, or like Heavy Gear 2, where they barf a bunch of rockets all over? My answer to Scuttlefish, who's one of our moderators, is yes, because I think the main thing to keep in mind is rocket pods are pods. I think it's really going to come down to what kind of rockets you have, and we have some ideas on that. So I will say you don't have to worry. We're not either of those two things, but we're looking at some really fun and interesting things there to do. Stay tuned for Ordnance, hopefully updates in I won't say the near future, but in the future. Favorite gear, something simple. Mr. K-Scarf, what is your favorite gear? I'm dying to know. I have a confession to make, and I hope this community doesn't get upset with me. I do love the gears. I do. I've always loved the gears. But I do have a calling, a burning in for a very specific thing. And what I love, absolutely love, is that in Heavy Gear, everyone gets cool vehicles, and it's just, the best ever. They are with unique science fiction and all the. But why on earth? Why on do you need the metal when you can get yourself a good boy Barnaby, throw a saddle on top of him, and go for a nice little ride? I love my Barnaby. I love my tusk boy. I love my broken tooth, scaly, big claws. Please feed me. And where's my anti-gear rifle, Barnaby? To answer that, if I had to choose a gear, forced to choose a gear, I am personally a huge, huge fan of the Cobra. I love the look of it and everything. And if I was choosing from the north, I think I would absolutely point and say, "Well, come on, the Hunter is just how can you not?" But Barnaby is by far one of the things that I've just always loved and I always laugh about. Um, Going from there, I'm going to answer some quick questions there. I think we have one last question. I'm going to do one last question there, and I'll do a little bit of a wind down here. Crew damage. Remember, it's pretty bad. Oh no, Ryan, don't worry. What I meant is damage can transfer to the pilot or crews of a gear vehicles inside.
Yeah.
We are very early on knowing how damage interact with like damage things like that. What I would say, and would be ideal for me, and I'm saying this as creative director, is I would love to be able to see that as something where as armor takes damage and things like that, or if you're in a very zoomy vehicle like a buggy where you have very little armor but you're so damn fast it's hard to hit. That splash damage and shrapnel and things like that can be taken into account. But this stuff is very complex, and we have to really prototype it and take a look at what we can do. But the Unreal 5 engine gives us a lot of take a look at those things. So that's really one of the funnest things there. All right, so I think I got through all the questions. I don't think I missed any. I hope I didn't. I will be going back and taking a look at all the questions a little bit later and doing my best to answer them and all that jazz. I'm going to say we got another 3 minutes right now. I'll give us to 115 if you guys want to stick around a little. We're going to be talking about some other stuff in the near future. There'll be some other things going on. Although scheduled as Q&As, there will be periods where I'll be inviting in members of Flameborn Games, DreamPod 9, things like that. And it'll be much more like back and forth conversations and sharing stuff. I do want to be clear that there will be town halls in the future as well. I'm hoping to do like once a month where you guys actually get a chance to jump up and actually talk verbally, because it's not always fun just to sit here, and other stuff like that. I did have a few people sending questions to me saying, "What can I do? Like, what can I do for and Heavy Gear 3 and all that stuff? How can I help?" Right now, I hate saying this. See, it sounds like such an influencer thing. Tell your friends to like and subscribe. If you can encourage people to the teaser to follow us on YouTube, to join the Discord, and to follow our social media. That is incredibly helpful. And to go over all of that stuff. So that's the best way to help at the moment, and then we'll go from there. And do not go over the top. Be cool, play it cool, people. On top of that, there will be some channels getting added. We'll probably be adding a lore channel to actually answer your question. We'll be dropping info cards so that people can catch up on specific lore that is more prevalent and more kind of in connection to what we're doing. It's going to be going out in phases. Right now, some of us are working in the back on gathering and updating some lore. We're putting it into a larger document, but we're going to put that on some info cards, slap some new art on it that's been done by our team. Further, we're going to be taking a look at a lot of other stuff. And that we're trying to make sure that everything is going good. I just saw our studio head smash that like button, click the bell icon, follow up on social media to smash that like button, click the bell icon to follow us on social. Yes, that's our mantra. Smash that button, and all that jazz. Last but not least, there will be chances to do some other stuff. We'll be doing some everything like there, but we'll just take a look at it all. But I hope this answered a lot of your. I'm I'm laughing at memes. I just saw the icon of our studio head being put into a wonderful little desert caravan scene in the meme section. I think that's great. We can do better than that, though. We might have to make our own memes from. Last but not least, another interesting question. This was a little bit more personal to me. Someone had asked. It was interesting. We just double check here. I'm going to pull this up before we go anywhere. It was okay. Someone had asked specifically, and they were a little bit worried. There was some people saying specifically that it was and it was about the scope, and then it was the PR-oriented Discord and things like that. This is funny. I don't normally address things like this, but I saw this person who was on. I think it was PC Games, and I kind of want to address that slightly with you guys. This is unusual in terms of gaming. If you're in the game industry or you've done that, you don't normally announce a game this early. That is an unusual thing to do, and you don't normally commit to talking to the community. Parent. That's an actual unusual thing by most things. We felt strongly that because of what's happened in the past with heavy gear, in the past, I am referencing assault. That's not on making assault situation, but also because of the fact that I'm gonna say the dreaded word. There are a lot of people out there who do AI, and they come up with fake projects, and they put up things, and they kind of you know make it. We felt strongly that we wanted to make sure that you gamers and players and fans of heavy gear could connect to the team, to real people, and be able to talk, see the progress, and get excited and spread the word. This is a bit of a different approach compared to most developers out there. And I had quite a few developers that I know from other studios who were like, we felt very, very strongly that we wanted to get out there so you guys can hear our voices, see what we're doing, excited, send criticism, all that jazz. And we felt you guys deserved it because heavy gear would not be 30 if it wasn't for people like you, if it wasn't for the support and the passion and the fun and the engagement and all of that jazz. Definitely wouldn't the skilled and great team of DreamPod 9 that has kept pushing through thick and thin, through high and low, and all that stuff. And we felt really strongly after seeing how heavy gear has always been communicative and DreamPod 9 has always been out there that we wanted to share that energy. So that's my statement on that. So I can understand where the pessimism and the cynicism comes from as a gamer myself, and having had, if you never heard of the Stomping Lands, that was something I backed a long time ago, and that was just a terrible experience when I was a much younger gamer. But this was something very strongly about Flamer Games. So on that note, I hope you guys all had a great time. I had a great time updating you all. Hopefully next time it will just be me talking, and I will see you all later. Gear up. I'm looking forward to the journey starting together. All right. See you later. Bye for now, guys.